Listen, 2024 is a year that all that is happened in the dark will come back to life.
Right.
Oh
And
my
that's on
God.
Cat Williams.
And I was like, oh my God. Okay, so let's focus. All right, Dr. Charm. So her husband got 34 counts like Trump. Were there any signs, or are there any signs for women to look out that may indicate that, okay, this man is only with me for some kind of financial gain or clout? Because that's what they discussed in the video. Are there any red flags that you can point to, or things to pay attention to when that happens?
Well, first I want to say shout out to everybody in the chat because I see the chat starting to light up a little bit. One thing is that we need to do. Lord, I'm going back to your girl on Who the F Did I Marry. She was like, I need proof of funds. Okay, I mean, if you're gonna lay down with somebody, people get STD tests. Okay, I see nothing wrong with if you are in an exclusive relationship with somebody, or you guys are deciding to commit to one another, of asking for proof of income, proof of assets, proof of funds, credit scores, those kind of things. Because the biggest thing to me is when Shirley, all this time, Shirley had a small, modest home in California. And this is off of Chronicles Speaks, because I would follow her religiously on YouTube. She's like,
I love Chronicles.
She's great. So Shirley had a modest home in California for like 20 something years. She had no credit issues, no evictions. She gets with Ernest, and they are getting these big homes in Atlanta and are getting evicted and moving out of these homes. I think they had like 2 evictions when she got with him. Like, that's a red flag at that point, and then the fact that this man had a criminal record. Now, shout out to our ex-felons. I'm not discriminating, saying that you can't change your life, but but if you see somebody has a criminal conviction, a felony conviction, you need to see how long ago was it. Okay, because for a job, usually they'll give you, you won't have any problems getting a job if it's over 10 years old. So if it's over 10 years old, you still need to know, what is it? Nonviolent? Is it violent? Did it involve financial crimes? These are things you look at. So did she know that Ernest had this criminal record, or he had an old felony going into this marriage? So these are some of the things you need to look at, ladies and gentlemen, because they got the girls are scamming people too.
And this is an interesting thing, because you had mentioned background checks before, and apparently he was still married to someone else when he got married to her. So I'm going to put it to you, Erica. Have you ever experienced any kind of financial deception in relationship? And if not, or if so, please share if you feel free, and also any tips you can give us in regard to that as well.
See, that last relationship, I learned a lot. That last relationship is a book, baby. I thank God for him, because he introduced me to my wealth with his shenanigans. I thank him for that.
So is that last relationship in Faith in Transition? Is Faith in Transition talk about that last relationship, that book?
Well, I have a book following up to that, but yeah, he is the reason why I am click, 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 click. Yeah. I will give you some backstory. I am not embarrassed about this. I had known his sister for years. When I was a personal trainer, she was one of my clients, and she introduced us. And I will never forget, she asked me one day after class, she said, "Are you single yet?" And I remember thinking, I never told her I was in a relationship, but I was in a relationship and had just kind of ended things with whoever I was with, and was looking to date, was open to date, and just kind of, and she introduced us, and he was really good. He was good looking, very good looking, charming. And we went out, and, things moved speedily, because, I was very clear about what I was looking for. And he met those things. He met them. In the process of us dating, about 8 months into it, I ended up starting to work on ships as a cruise director, taking a sabbatical. And he had a business he was developing, had branding and marketing. And he was traveling as my travel companion to focus on his business. Now, it didn't cost me any money. And that's the key. I'm going to stop right there. It didn't cost me any money. The one thing that I never did was co-mingle funds. I never cross-branded my money. I'm not on your accounts. You're not on my accounts. We didn't even have an our account. I'm going to leave it there, give Dr. Charm some time to come in. But I do not believe in co-mingling money. Once money starts getting funky, you can't get out of anything. You can move, you can relocate, but you are still tied to each other financially. And that is something as an adult woman I don't believe in.
Thank you for sharing those insights. And listen, if this is not the plug for the Faith in Transition book, I don't know what is, because I don't want to read just to see what went down. If you are joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your income. You are joining me today with our lovely co-queens, Dr. Charm and Erica Lewis, while we discuss all things financial fraud and love. I also want to ask a question to the chats, okay? For those of you who are watching this live, or if you're watching the replay, please comment. How do you vet your potential partners, and what is your process for that? We are here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, and you can also receive and sign up for our text at Queens to 87948. Today, we are giving you access to the book Financial Lovemaking by Dr. Boyce Watkins to help you learn how to marry access your partner in a way that feels good to you. So please text Queens, that is Queens with an S, to 87948 so you can get this lovely book and avoid the mistakes about the people we're talking about today. Now, as a CPA and as a women's wealth coach, I actually have a training on this about introductory training about wealth and how women acquire it, but also the things that women need to consider. In that training, I do touch upon financial deception, because 45% of couples experience financial deception in their relationship. So that's almost half. So that is very high. And by financial deception, yes, we can talk about Ernest, like Shirley's husband, to the level of a big scam like this. But financial deception can also mean hiding money, can also mean one partner has a gambling situation and they leverage the house, and the next thing you know, you wake up and you have an eviction notice on your front door. It could be, I have a side piece that I funnel money to or pay bills that you don't know about. So it's very interesting that you say that, Erica, about, I think that one thing that helps you in that situation you discussed was that you did not commingle money in that way. There are different ways couples choose to commingle their money. The other thing I want to discuss is 5 financial red flags. Since we are discussing this, I want to give everyone 5 financial red flags to look for in their relationships. This is provided by Experian, who does credit. So they have seen a whole bunch of financial fraud, I am sure. So these are 5 financial red flags to look for. 1, unwillingness to discuss money. So if you are dating someone and their unwillingness to have a conversation with you around money, that's a financial red flag. Uncontrolled credit card debt. Now, you may not know this right away because you're just meeting, but should you run ask for a credit report or credit score, that will also give you some insight around that. The refusal to disclose credit scores is another one. Hiding financial accounts, and gambling and risky behavior. So, Dr. Charm, I'm going to pivot to you. Have you ever been in a relationship where it was difficult to discuss money and finances?
I think as I've matured, I've begun to discuss finances. Like, I never did, in my 20s and 30s. It was just more like discussing careers and professions. But as I've gotten older, I'm asking what credit scores are, and in debt, asking about credit card debt, because those things are important. Because when you get married to somebody, if you make it to the marriage state, then a lot of times those debts are going to be assumed with the into the marriage. And even if they aren't legally assumed, you're still you're still having joint finances. Now, whether you have joint accounts, piggybacking off of Erica, that's different. But still, you all are in the same household. You have bills, and if somebody's got student loans or a lot of credit card debt, so where a percentage of their income is going towards that, that affects the other partner. So I think it's important that we talk about these things. Like I said, people should be getting STD tests and things. And so you should be getting financial, just like you're getting sexual health tests, you should get financial health tests and ask these type of questions.
You know, one of the things I'd like to chime in here, we asked the question of what are the red flags that people need to see? And one of the things that I always like to do is to take it back to accountability. You know, in my situation, I went and I did some self-assessing, like, how did I get caught in this mess? You know, I jumped into something too quick after I had broken up with someone. You have to do your own internal audit with yourself and determine, are you even ready to date? Because if you're not healed, if you're not moving in the direction of being able to focus, you're not going to even notice red flags. If you aren't healed from the last relationship, if you're not feeling confident about yourself, if there's still areas of yourself that you're working on and you're feeling a little gray in between, you know, not quite black and white, but gray over here, gray over there about yourself, you're not in a good position to start making decisions about a partner. So I think before anyone starts dating, before they can even recognize that there are red flags, you have to do an internal audit and say, am I in a good space to date?
And I can tell you right now, a lot of people do not do that. A lot of people do not do audit to see if they're in a good space to date. What I will say is this, and I want to pose this question to the chat as well. How soon should you conduct a background check? Because when I was dating, when I was doing my dating stint earlier on, I used to do checks immediately, because some things you can look up online. I can look up if you own your house. Like, I can look up do a property search. You can do certain things just based off a phone number or address or a plate. So I used to do that early on, but then I was like, okay, it's a waste to run all these background checks, because if the relationship is not progressing to a certain point, like, what is the point as well? You can also find a lot through social media. I remember I was dating this one guy, and he said he had one daughter. And I didn't even look this up. My friend found him on Facebook, and he had like 4 kids, like, in the picture. So it was, and then he said he was divorced. So I asked him for a divorce decree, and he could not give me one. So yes, exactly. So I want you guys to sign up in the chat, and then also you ladies, what kind of financial documents should couples share before marriage or look at before the relationship gets further? I'll start with you, Dr. Charm.
I mean, like I said, I think, we should be sharing social security numbers and running those through a background check. That's checking criminal. We're checking marriage history. The thing with Shirley Strawberry, the marriages should show up in the national check, but they might not always show up. And so the way, I think when Chronicle Speaks went and looked that marriage up, that lady happened to write into her and wrote into her show and said, hey, I'm married to him. And so then based on that, then she went and found the county that they were married in and then looked up the registry. But sometimes it might not show up in the computer system unless you know where they live. But I think one thing you can do, ladies, is get him to tell you where the places that he lived. And like I said, men too, because women be scamming too. Find out where they lived and then go look it up. Because I had a guy, we had started going out, and he told me that he had never been married. Then he told me where he lived. Now, I didn't even pay to do a background check. I just did a Google search based on the county that he lived in and found out that he had had a marriage annulled after 6 months. And it was due to, they had some domestic violence going on. And then he had 3 DUIs. So when I saw that, like, skirt, no, thank you. So, sometimes just doing a little cursory Google search. The way I look at it is, if you're interested in them, if you have an interest level, do a Google search, do a social media search. Now, when y'all start to be exclusive and you all decide to be exclusive, go ahead and pay that $19.95, because I say it give you peace of mind. Because I'm not going to end up chopped up in the freezer in body parts.
Ooh, listen, no Jeffrey Dahmer situation. How about you, Erica? What kind of did you share any financial information or documents with that last previous relationship with that person, or no?
We were together 3 years. He never saw a dime. He didn't know who I banked with. I don't play that. That's my money. And he traveled with me when I was on board. And we did a domestic partnership because in order to travel internationally, international and domestic on ships, because of maritime law, there had to be some kind of connection, not just a friend on board, because he would travel with me extensively. So we did the domestic partnership paperwork, which was perfectly fine. It was notarized. And when I got rid of him, I just notarized that it was over. But no, he never had access to my paycheck. He never had access to my checking account. He never had access to my credit card bills. I knew he banked with Bank of America, but I had several accounts with different banks. I mean, and he didn't know that because my banking statements went to a PO box, not to my house address where I lived. So that's just something that I came up on with my mama. Shout out to my mama, the Reverend Valerie Lewis. Reverend Val taught me, you hold on to some things, and everybody in a relationship is entitled to some level of privacy. And because we had not, made vows, we had not decided on, taking things to the next step beyond this domestic partnership, because, with him being on ships with me, this was to further his business and his dream. And when I saw he wasn't doing the things necessary to make that happen, I started scaling back, because I knew that I could get this little piece of paper that was notarized, unnotarized, and notarize something else to dissolve this.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that there are ways that women can protect themselves financially, and I'm going to discuss that a little further. And men too, because, like Dr. Charm said, women are scammers too. We live in Scamerica, honey. It seems like every day I wake up is a new scam that comes along. So, I will discuss different ways that people should consider when it comes to financially protecting themselves, whether it's dating or in a marriage, just all around. But we want to actually go into some facts about Shirley's marriage. So Shirley Strawberry married Ernesto Williams in 2013. He is also called, or goes after the name Ernest, which he was definitely not in this situation. Williams listed his career as a thriving entrepreneur as owner of Ernesto Cuts, a men's grooming salon. Edith Williams married Ernesto in 1985, according to their marriage certificate, and says they were never divorced. Woo! Listen, remember we were discussing the video where the girl said she just wanted a wedding day, but she didn't want the paperwork. She didn't want the wedding day. She didn't want the paperwork. Listen,
I remember.
Sometimes when you just focus on, I just want the big day. I just find it, like you said, Dr. Charm, when it was Risa Tisa, and she said, she just felt like maybe it was just her turn. That's why I say, ladies, do not let your desires blind you so much that you get into these situations. But those were some very interesting statistics. Now, before I go in, I would like for you guys, I'll start with you, Erica. You said a lot last time, but what are the ways that people can protect themselves financially?
Well, number one, I think when you first meet someone, and whether you've done your vetting or your criminal background checks or basic background checks, you can learn a lot about a person's financial status by watch how they spend versus what they make and what they do for a living. If you're meeting someone and they're in between, but they have this lavish lifestyle, that's going to tell you something. So you're in between your finances. You live with your cousin, but you got a $800 car payment, but you don't have your own address. And there's a lot of that happening. So that tells you a lot. If they go out a lot, if they're not, managing their money, if they're not, if they're just ready to just spend, that tells you a lot about the individual. But I always say protect yourself, because if you're not micromanaging your own finances, you're not going to be able to see red flags on how somebody else is spending. any relationship that you have with anyone, I don't care if it's platonic, business, romantic, if you don't have that whole relationship with yourself, you can't monitor what someone else is doing. You're not able to see red flags. So I would say have all of your ducks in a row before, because if you're going to do a business merger, if you're going to merge with me on business, you're going to make sure you have all your things in order. And the more in order you are, you're going to look at me and go, well, wait, she don't have her stuff in order, because you can see all the time that you put into what you're doing. And then you immediately look at my stuff and go like, she ain't got nothing together. So when you've invested so much time in yourself, I go back to self. I believe in accountability. When you spend so much time investing in yourself, so much time getting your ducks in a row, you will be able to immediately pick up on something and say, this is not right. But I wholeheartedly say, watch that spending, look at what they're driving, look at the shoes, look at the clothes, and then talk about their careers. Conversation will tell you a lot. So talk about money. Are they investing? Are they saving? Ask them to give you ideas on how to save and invest, especially those that boast and brag about how much money they make. I'd like to learn from you. Can you share with me some of the tools and things that you've done to make investments? That's something I'm curious to know about. And then once they start talking, you can tell what they know and don't know and judge from there.
Thank you for that, Erica. I think that is very enlightening. I will now pivot to you. So there's people, the chat is going a little crazy. Nelson E. Robertson Jr. says, hiding money from a spouse is crazy. All men don't want a woman's money. And Drastic OM, ladies, I think that a man that hides his kids is foul, but however, men that are raised proper and they do have things going on for themselves were trained not to tell women about how much money they make. So, Dr. Charm, I know that you're dating, so let's pivot back to that. Do you find that men who actually have, like Drastic said, men who actually have things going on for themselves do not tell a woman how much money they make and are more reserved with their financial status than men who don't?
Well, I would be concerned if somebody's telling me like right off the bat how much money they make. But I mean, if a man is what they call high value, or he has businesses and things, there are other ways that you'll be able to tell, that they have things going on. They may talk about some of the, I got to go on business. I'm doing a business deal. I'm doing X, Y, Z. And then as far as, the back to the scammers and stuff, you also got to look at where you are. Cause see, she met him out here in the ATL, baby. And I'm a new transplant to the ATL, but I have heard some stories about these scammers here in the ATL, because it's legendary that you have to really, people like to, we used to say back in the day, style and profile and flaws, but then, don't have no substance behind it. So you got to look at where you are. You got to look at the garden, the atmosphere, the ecosphere, all that where you at. But I think, if somebody say, oh, I make so-and-so and so-and-so and so, and if they talking a lot, they, all that rah-rah, you got to kind of, that might raise a flag, because they say money talks, but wealth whispers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I found that men who actually have it are more reserved, or they look regular. You don't even know that. You don't even know.
You always look at the shoes, though. The shoes, it might be a nice watch here and there, but they're probably not going to be as flashy as the next person. Because what they say, what is it? Warren Buffett lived in like a little patio home for years, and this man's a billionaire.
Right.
Yeah. So
I wonder if Atlanta is like the capital of Scamerica. Atlanta might be one of those places. I used to live in Atlanta. Atlanta might be one of those places that's like the capital of Scamerica.
I lived in Atlanta for 4 months.
Lagos is on the other hemisphere. They the capital over there in Nigeria. So let me stop.
Okay, so I want to go in quickly about ways that people can financially protect themselves, whether it's in dating, whether it's in marriage. So first thing you want to do, I don't believe in running a background check super right away, because your dating process alone should filter out a bunch of people. Like 90%, the dating statistics show 90% of people that you meet, you won't even get past a third date with. So that's the statistic on that. So save your coins, save your little $20 per background check until you reach the point where you might actually be exclusive with this person. Now, when it comes to finances, I do believe that finances should not be commingled up until marriage. So when it comes to bank accounts and things like that, I don't believe that they should be commingled up until you guys are married and you guys decide what is your financial profile and arrangement. Some people prefer to have separate bank accounts completely. Some people prefer to have a joint account for the joint bills and then have separate accounts. Some people like to throw it all in one pot. You guys have to decide that what works best for you and your financial agreements in that way. Now, as far as assets is concerned, if you have a business, those assets will protect you in some cases, but then I would suggest consult a lawyer around whether or not you need to put that in a trust or estate planning purposes, like what kind of protections you have. This also goes not just from a financial standpoint, but from a legal standpoint. And then now you go into state. Some states, certain things are community property. There are no fault divorce states. Some states that whatever the appreciation of the assets or the business during the course of the marriage is considered. So it gets very nuanced. So if you ain't got nothing, or you might have something in the future, it might be worth a little investment to get that consultation. And I think I always say to people, do the premarital counseling, because those are questions that are going to, those financial questions, if you have been avoiding that in the relationship, it will definitely come up in the premarital counseling. So I would, and I've done premarital counseling before, so those questions are definitely brought up. So I think that is my first recommendation. Second thing is to determine, do you have any assets that you want to protect, or should an event of divorce would have some kind of consideration? I think in dating and relationships, a lot of people avoid what I will call the negotiation parts of relationships because it can be very unpleasant. However, you want to go into things being on the same page. Now, if you have trinkets, important documents, money somewhere, you can always open up a safety deposit box at a bank and stash that over there. You can also have accounts in multiple different places and stash that over there. You might want to consult like a tax attorney or a tax CPA to discuss those options. But most people, I would say, are not on the financial level for that to even matter. But a question, we're going to reset first, and then I'll ask the question for you guys. Should women have emergency fund situations for situations like this? But before we get into that topic, hi, we are Flying Nubian Money, and we are your co-queens today. My name is Athena. We have Erica Lewis, Faith in Transition, and Dr. Charm, honey. And we are discussing not letting love cost you, because love theoretically shouldn't cost a thing. Okay, and today's topic, we are also giving you guys a lovely freebie called Financial Love Making, written by Dr. Boyce Watkins. It can help you figure out how to merge your assets in a partner in ways that feel good. So if you are triggered today by our discussion, you want to text the word Queens to 87948 so you get that book, so you can have a good framework to how to figure out how to move financially in your dating and marriage process. So I'm going to pivot to you, Erica. Should women have an emergency fund for situations like this? And also in your relationship, when you departed, was it easy for you to depart because you didn't commingle the money and you had your own financial security so you can just up and leave? Because I know a lot of women stay because of lack of financial security.
You know, I had actually sold my house, and we were living in sin. I was shacking. That was my fault. That was I took bad girl. I was shacking. And what took me so long to leave, once I just woke up one day and I was just like, I wasn't happy. It took me so long to leave because of my things. I had my furniture, my this, my that. And it was things that I had accumulated over years. I had a house. And I woke up one day and I realized my value is not in these things. I can either sit here among my things and be devalued, or get out of here, walk away from all this stuff and repurchase it and maintain my value. And that is what I decided to do. It hurt like heck to walk away from 20 years of stuff that I'd had in a house. However, I'm so free and happy, I don't know what to do with myself. Yes, but because we did not have money overlapping, I was able to make some moves he knew nothing about. I was able to move money left to right, up and down. He knew nothing about. He didn't know I was leaving until I moved out on September 1st. He found out August 30th I was moving.
So the things that were left in the house, were there, because sometimes there can be issues when you're living together, because a lot of people are cohabitating and they don't know the rental legal house laws. Like if you move them in your house and
Girl,
you do something.
Let me tell you how good God is. I don't know if you heard about it, but this is Hurricane Ida happened in New Jersey. I'm in New Jersey. Hurricane Ida happened. And I was moving out the next day, and the whole few cities just flooded. And when I went to go get my last bags that I'd left in the closet, the apartment had flooded. So everything that he got to keep, he had to throw out. Can we just give God a wave and a praise?
Oh my God. That is some divine justice.
I mean, that's between him and God. I ain't got nothing to do with that. But nothing to do with that. But I will say,
was he resistant for you to get your things, though? Was that the issue?
Yep. And he said that I want this, I want that. I said, that's not a problem. You, sir, you can have it. I just took my clothes, all the artifacts and everything that I purchased when I worked on the ship and had been everywhere from Papua New Guinea to Australia and Brazil, all those things. He felt like those things were his. Sir, not a problem. You don't get me. And when I didn't like it either. I was upset.
I don't like a petty man like that.
I don't like a petty man. And that's a whole nother story. That's a whole other story. But I was able to walk away because my thing is this: when you start putting value, that's your test. Am I going to put the value in those things, or am I going to value me? Because if I had stayed, what would I even be sitting here today? When somebody you don't know. I was never abused. I was never hit. I was never accosted, but I didn't like the way you were talking to me. I didn't like the way you said that. I didn't like the way. So sometimes a person will talk to you a certain way to see how closer they can get to doing other things. And you know what? I believe in hard stops, and I did a hard stop, and it was time to go. And I said, if this is my sacrifice, what I have to do is walk away from this stuff. That's what I did. And he didn't have it long.
Wow. Listen, I might have to buy Faith in Transition today. Dr. Charm, our medical expert here on the panel. I'm going to pivot this to you because I know 45% of women experience financial stress. Right? That's another stat I put up in my training. And as a doctor, what would you think women in these situations or Shirley might be experiencing with the fallout of this relationship and her scammer husband? Do you feel that any suggestions on how women can overcome shame and emotional distress from a financially embarrassing relationship?
Okay. Well, I did want to go back to something you had said, Athena, about the third date or something, doing the background check.
90% of people don't even reach the third date in dating.
Yeah, and they said that the average date that people have sex on is the third date. So just think about we're having sex on dates before we're checking to see if the person is a criminal. So okay, but and then I did want to touch real quick on the joint finances. Susie Orman, all these financial experts, they always say you should have a joint account as a couple to pay bills out of, and then have your separate account. And then based on the percentage of like who makes more, that determines the percentage of what's contributed to that joint account. So I always thought that was sound advice. Now, as far as, how can women rebound from getting scammed or being a victim of a charlatan? Therapy. I don't know how many times I can say it. And then also having a good support system, because I went through a very, very turbulent relationship about, was that 2019? So what is it, 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago? And I remember one of my good girlfriends, y'all, she stayed on the phone with me for 8 hours. 8 hours. Okay. And that was towards the end of the relationship. And thank God I got out of it relatively unscathed. But 8 hours. So you got to have your support system, whether it be your friends, your family, and definitely therapy. Definitely.
It's interesting you say that, Dr. Charm, because I remember Oprah had a quote saying that, one of the reasons she loved Gail was the therapy that she never had to pay for, basically, because their conversations and their relationship helped her through so much. Now, with what has just happened, right? Because this came up in my mind. We're going to spice it up a little bit today. Okay. I want you guys to sound off in the chat. We are living in the age of level up, manosphere, red pill, blue pill, high value, low value, great value. Okay, we're living in these times. The level up girls say this would never happen to them because they're only hypergamous. They ain't nobody. They ain't nobody broke or nobody looking the cloud for them because they're doing their climb upward.
No dusties,
no dust bunnies. Okay, no booga woogas. No financial leeches. So, Erica, I'm gonna talk to you. Does this fuel the argument of the level up queens? Okay, does this make them say, "See, this is why you cannot date these men trying to financially climb up off of you, and you have to be hypergamous because these are the issues you run into"? Do they have a point?
The level up girlies, you know what? And I'm a lot older than the level up girlies. I'm like level up girlies mama. And I always say, you trying to level up on somebody, please don't ever think that they're not trying to do the same thing to you. Please don't ever think that, because what you're trying to do to them, that same energy can always be brought back around. So you have to be so careful, because people will make plans for you. Sometimes a man, you got the level up girl is like, yeah, I'm a level up off of him. Yeah, she got plans for him, but he has plans for her, because you use him to level up. And then what happens when he snatches all that level up away? What are you doing? Are you meeting the friends? Are you meeting the bankers? Are you making investments? Are you learning along the way? Like I said, I'm huge on accountability. So yeah, you can use that man to level up to a certain place, but can you stay there once you get there?
Can you stay there once you get there? Listen. All right, Dr. Charm, I know, honey. Because I know you and me love Shira. What do you... Does she have a point? Does she have a point? That's why you don't. Okay, so because the other side of this is he was perpetrating that he was high value, quote unquote. So even if you're trying to be hypergamous, do you have to have an extra layer of vetting protection?
You gotta vet them. And here's the thing, though, and that's why I said where Shirley got caught up is because if the rumor is true that she met him through Steve, then I'm giving Steve the side eye. And that's probably why they had to go back on the radio and allegedly backtrack that she allegedly met him through Steve.
Absolutely.
You introducing me to a man that was trigamous, I'm making up a word. Okay, because he was beyond bigamy. He was married to 3 women at the same time. So yeah. So it was a little harder because he's moving in these circles. He had the barbershop. So he had a physical proof of income. You know, he had a business, a brick and mortar business at that she could go look at. But baby, you know, I'm calling Miss Athena, I'm calling the CPA. Let me see the book, especially when by the time you get ready to get married. But I've heard women that, you know, they're asking for proof of funds, social security numbers. And, you know, think about I watched all these Downton Abbey and the Gilded Age and all that. And I remember there was a scene in the Gilded Age where the man, you know, he was interested in marrying a woman and being with her. And he went to her father and he came with what? Proof of funds. He brought his proof of funds to the meeting with her dad in the drawing room. And he said, look, see, if we would harken back to some of those old-fashioned things, I mean, everything wasn't good back in the olden days. I mean, we were enslaved. But some of those olden things are proof of funds. Talk to the family. The families know one another. Because that's another thing. With all these people moving across different cities. I mean, I've lived in 3 or 4 different states. But if people, you know, if you know the families and they getting together, you know, it's harder to scam folks when you know all their people.
And that's another thing when women are older, when a woman is more mature, she's in her 50s, her 60s, or her 70s, and she's grown, she necessarily doesn't feel like she needs to introduce him to friends and family, or she doesn't have to introduce to the children. No, you really do. You need to be doing more introducing than you would have in your younger years, because you, as an older woman, we are more vulnerable, to be completely honest. You can be more vulnerable. Your parent, you may not still have your parents. Your siblings have their own lives and they live across the country. And so, you know, you do have to rely on friends. You do have to rely on your children. And especially if you're an older woman that doesn't have children, it is so important that you have your friends involved in a huge aspect of what is going on in your dating life. So older women that are single, that are out here vetting and dating, please don't ever feel like you are too grown to let somebody know who you are dating and what is going on.
Yeah, because we don't want to end up on first 48, yeah.
What I will say is that scamming is across all tax brackets, because I feel like there's this image that scamming is only for broke, dusty people. Look at Kamora Lee and her husband, Tim Lesnar. He scammed money out of a fund.
Like $30 million, $50
yes.
million.
And he was another one that wasn't divorced, and he and his ex-wife went in on the not divorced thing.
Yes, because I think they had a conversation because Kamora wanted to make sure that he was divorced, because Kamora probably know a lot of these men scamming. So she was like, let me go to the source. Are you still divorced or not? And she was a part of that as well. So she tried to escape it as much as possible. And
Kamora's got money to hire, like she got money to hire like the firms, the security firms.
But the one beauty,
or does she? Or does she?
The from what I've gleaned from what she has said, Russell's not really doing anything. So what she's living off of is like her own ventures. And one thing I do teach in actually my women's wealth training is that the women that seem to rebound are the ones who set up their own businesses or were working on their own talent. Because the other thing too is, look at Portia Williams, Portia Gubadia. She went quick. One day they woke up, oh, we together, we about to get married, we about to do all these things, and comes to find out he has all kind of immigration from.
He ain't even in the country legally. He don't even have the correct visa. I mean, and my thing is that goes back 20 years with Simon, and the government hadn't caught it.
I mean, we can't let Portia off the hook. She went in this woman's house and picked up this bag of trash. So I mean, she's accountable for some of the things that she's taken her own self through. I mean, like, let's be honest. And I mean, and now there seems to be a huge overflow of women having to pay alimony. What is it? Mary, Jill Scott, Halle Berry is paying alimony and child support to every man she done been with, dated, slept with, and divorced. It's just ridiculous. So, I mean, just because you have it doesn't mean that you're supposed to get rid of it. Women need to have an understanding that there's a difference. You have to know how to guard your heart, because sometimes guarding your heart will guard your wallet.
That's what Proverbs says. But see, Portia is a little bit smarter than the average because they did get a prenup, but now Simon is trying to challenge the prenup, saying that she just got this big deal with to go back to housewives, and he's saying, well, that happened after the marriage, and now I want the prenup to be reevaluated. And same thing with Mary J. Mary J had a prenup too, and her husband was able to challenge it. So it's like, just because you get a prenup doesn't mean that it's going to hold up. And that's
supposed to be the legal there's ways to bypass a prenup. There are ways to bypass a prenup. I want to pose this question to the group, though. If you are in a situation with a man who financially scammed you, or there was some infidelity or deception of some form, should there be a law that says a woman does not have to pay alimony?
That's married by fraud. That's like a fraudulent marriage, and that could be grounds for annulment. Because what's her name, Jennifer? Was it Jennifer Lewis that got her stuff annulled, or was it Tashina? One of those that they got the marriage annulled because the man was such a scammer. And I think that was I think it was Jennifer Lewis, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. So the thing too, back to the alimony, back to the level up girls. They say, listen, if you wasn't dating no Dusty who needed your money, you wouldn't have to pay alimony. Do the level up girls have a point in that situation as well?
Baby, honey. And here's the thing. That's true. Now, if you're not springing on any bills, it's easier. I think it's hard to get away with. But then look at Risa Tisa. Risa Tisa said part of the seduction of Legion was that she wasn't paying any of the bill. He was paying all the major bills. She said all she had to pay was, I think, her car note and a couple of little credit card bills or something. He was paying all the major bills. So you got to watch that too. You got to watch all of it.
All right. So
back to when I was talking about that, when you watch the money, watch how it's being funneled, those expensive meals. If somebody's able to finance all your bills right off the bat, that is a red flag.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go to final thoughts, ladies. We discussed a lot. We shared a lot. What are your final thoughts around this situation, about being scammed into love? I will start with you, Erica, first, and then also please share with the audience where they can find you.
My heart goes out to Shirley Strawberry. I just think she just, was an older woman, had been single for X amount of years, had adult children, had grandchildren, and she just wanted that love for herself. And I really feel bad for her. But I think we really need to start, like I said, doing internal audits and having an understanding as to what is it that I need and what and who can complement me to what I'm bringing to the table. Because sometimes, the relationship that you want is not the relationship that you need. So you can find me on faithandtransition.com, and you can find me on all the social medias at Miss Erica Renee.
All right. Now, Dr. Charm, please let the lovely people know where they can find you and your final thoughts on our topic today.
Okay. Well, I misspoke about it being Jennifer Lewis. It was Tasha Smith. So Tasha Smith, that was on Why Did I Get Married? Why Did I Get Married To? The one was fussing with her husband all the time. So she got her marriage annulled. The judge said he was such a scammer that they had to annul that thing. But look, you can also avoid some of this by going and getting you a tarot reading, seeing a good medium and spiritual advisor, which I am in that number. I got my text number up there next to my name. You can text me at 404-832-5179 for your own personal reading. And my final thoughts are, ladies, you got to be careful in these streets. You got to have your friend group tight, your therapy tight, and your background checks tight. And like I said, have your spiritual advisor tight too. Have it all circled up and shored up.
Yes, for the spiritual advisor, honey. Now, what I will say is this. If you are a woman watching this and you want to financially level up and make sure that you protect your own wealth so you do not end up like Shirley and all the other women we discussed, you can find me, Athena Gardner, and CPA at wewealthwomen.com. I have courses, coaching, and my podcast, the We Wealth Women podcast, available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. If you are interested in getting all my information, you can hit my website on the screen. Now, if you have joined us today, thank you for sticking through us as a loyal subscriber. We appreciate you so much. Hopefully you were able to glean so many gems so love does not have to scam you, because according to Christina Milian, love shouldn't cost a thing. We are Fly Nubian Money. We help you master your mindset and maximize your income. We are here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are also on Spotify. So if you want to listen to us on the go, honey, you can find Fly Nubian Money on Spotify and listen to your lovely queens. Before you go, make sure you text the word Queens, that's QUEENS, to 87948, so you do not miss when we are live, and to get today's free offer for Financial Lovemaking, a book written by Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm Athena, and Erica and Dr. Charm. We are all your queens for today, and we hope to see you in the next one.